Hey everybody, this is Stephanie, aka Animaniac Zero from the Sports Nut blogs. I haven't used the YouTube channel in about 3 years. I figure now is just a good time as any to bring it back up, especially because I want to get into a topic that I've been begging this person to talk about for a good year and a half or so, and he just never gets around to writing or gets around to doing anything for me anymore because he's a stinker. But we're going to do
Sorry
it now.
about that.
So, I have over a Skype call, I have a good friend of mine, Andrew, on the line. Hopefully he doesn't drop the call again and I have to redo this recording.
Yeah, sorry about that.
He is a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo, and for the longest time I've been wanting him to talk about the honor code, the honor system he has in practicing martial arts and how that works in conjunction with mixed martial arts and how they're similar, how they're different. You know, whether Andrew himself is a fan of mixed martial arts and whether it really honors the codes and the systems that go on with factions such as UFC and when Strike Force was around, those kinds of groups. So we're going to talk about that today. Andrew's going to be a little buzzy, but that's because I'm doing this over voice recording and Skype, so there's going to be a bit of feedback, so nobody complain, because I can't do a darn thing about it. So,
Yes, and I don't want to hang up again.
You don't want to hang up again. We know your track record with technology, Andrew.
Yes.
So before we started this conversation, you sent me something over text message from a Facebook post, and you sent me Bruce Lee, which I'm totally a member of the Church of Bruce Lee. You sent me
That
his...
was actually a friend of mine that put that up, and I agree with what she said a lot.
Yeah, she said that Bruce Lee's philosophy of mixed martial arts was that a prudent person should study all styles of fighting in order to be prepared for any opponent. The key word here is study. That includes the history of the particular art and the beliefs, whether they be religious or philosophical, of those who practice a particular style. Most MMA fighters don't bother with any of this, which is why it's a bastardized sport and has nothing to do with the true arts. And she ends it with a quote from Bruce Lee saying, "Notice that the stiffest tree is most easily cracked, while the bamboo or willow survives by bending with the wind." God, I love that man. So, just if you can give us a little background of what you trained in, and just like a Reader's Digest history of Taekwondo. Like, from my understanding, I know there are two schools, and what's the major difference between the two? If you can just get into that a little bit.
Okay, story time, children. Taekwondo was originated in Korea, and the founder of it was a general in the Korean army named General Choi Hung-hee. He invented what's known as the International Taekwondo Federation. Now, he had two sons. One was very loyal to him, and he continued on the legacy of the ITF. His other son disagreed with the practices of the ITF, so on and so forth, and he created the World Taekwondo Federation, which is the version of Taekwondo which you see in the Olympics and such.
That I knew.
Well, how deep do you want me to go?
Well, with both of them, are there any significant differences between both schools? And why is one, like, what does one focus more on?
Well, from just a pure technical aspect, like katas, like the patterns, I mean, there is a slight difference in each federation, if you will. I mean, the green belt pattern in the ITF could be the blue belt pattern in WTF. So there's small differences like that.
Now, is one more, like, tactically based? Is one more grappling based? Because I know one is more, like, wartime combat, and I believe that's ITF?
Yes.
Because I remember you saying to me at one point, I think it was the Korean Army looked to different regions such as Canada and Poland for I could be making Canada up. It's been a while since we spoke about this, but I know you mentioned the Poles, and there was a lot of patterns and styles that were adopted from them.
Well, that's more so of an American practice of taking the styles and training methods of different countries.
So it's here. It's more of like a melting pot.
Yes, yes.
So is there? Oh no, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say that's why, in a joking term, the Americans usually get their behinds whipped at international tournaments.
So, in your humble opinion, do you think Taekwondo? Do you think it's been watered down? Do you think there's any pure form that could be taught in the United States?
That's a very difficult question because I wasn't around when General Troy invented it, so I have no idea what a pure style would be.
Well, do you think the style that the South Koreans learn, which, for those who don't know, ITF is more Southern Korean based, whereas you learn WTF more in North Korea, correct?
Yes. And the Taekwondo art form has very much to do with the separation of the Koreas.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, the practitioners in South Korea, do they still stick with the original teachings, or do they do what the Americans do, so to speak, and just take a whole bunch of different styles and build onto the art?
Well, the interesting thing in places like Korea and surprisingly Argentina is there it's sort of like soccer in Europe. It's almost like a religion.
Mm-hmm.
So they eat, breathe, and sleep it, as opposed to the Americans where it's mainly a hobby or
like self-enrichment, which is why I would probably learn it. Slap me across the face.
But yeah, so it's like hockey in Canada, soccer in Europe.
Right. Okay, so we got that out of the way. We got the history and, the different forms of Taekwondo. So we have your background right there.
Yes.
So because you've been training and fighting for well over 15 years now.
Yes.
And you teach little people, and they're really good at it, and yeah.
Well, I'd like to think so.
They worship you. You're a Whovian now.
Oh, don't go there.
Okay, so we're going to get to the bare bones here. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes of why I originally wanted to do this. Because a year and a half ago, I remember you telling me that you wanted to talk about why you were somewhat against the mainstream mixed martial arts. Why you were not so much against it, but you have your differing opinions on UFC, and I mentioned some of what was in the Facebook post earlier. Let's get down to it. What are your thoughts on mainstream mixed martial arts, the promotion of UFC? Would you ever try it yourself? Would you ever encourage your students to ever look into that?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and you've asked it many times.
Yeah, and you never gave me a straight answer, which is why I'm bringing you out in the open now.
Because it's a very difficult thing to sort of pinpoint, because while I do have differing opinions on MMA, there are even some techniques that I've learned that I incorporate into teaching. So it's not so much that I dislike it or think that it's any less of a sport, keyword the sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you see these guys on UFC, Dana White and stuff, and it's basically WWE, but real.
Right, yeah, and I actually just noted in the post that I had just posted late Monday night, early Tuesday morning, that sports and entertainment, it's used almost interchangeably with specific sports, but sports like boxing and mixed martial arts, it's more sport-based because there's really no premeditated booking. As in, like, For example, Anderson Silva is going to win this fight. You know, it's not established 2 hours before bell. Whereas if you were WWE, like, you know, you would know John Cena is going to win the fight against CM Punk. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's, you know, it's entertaining to watch, but it's more sport-based in its skeleton, so to speak.
Agreed.
So, like, as you were saying, you know, it's, like you said, it was like WWE, but real, but are the teachings still there? Because, I mean, when UFC first came about in the early to mid-90s, you had guys like the Gracie family take part in UFC events.
Now, when it comes to the UFC, the guys that, again, it comes back to an American versus a worldwide view.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the American guys, yes, they may train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or they may train in something else, but it's not really a part of them the way that, like, a Gracie, or I'm trying to remember the other guy's name, but I forget it.
Well, no, because, like, I know there are a lot of, you know, martial arts films that also exist, like Bloodsport, for example. Jean-Claude Van Damme was in that. That was a showcase of different martial arts styles.
Do you know he can do splits off trucks?
That too, but that's kind of what UFC was in its infancy. Like, it showed all these different martial arts styles that were never really presented in the United States before. And now you see it pretty much all the time. You see it on Fox, you see it on FX, you see it on the Fox Sports channels, basically, and on pay-per-view. But, like, the one thing that I really want to explore here is, you know, you learn it, but do they really learn the spiritual or the, you know, the mental, emotional aspects of the art? Because you mostly see the physical side. They're like, oh, well, he's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's, you know, third ranked in the world, and so on and so forth. But do they really take it as seriously as they should? Instead of making it, you know, a living. Are you still there?
Oh, yes, I didn't really hear a question in that, so that's why I was sort of sitting back.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, but, like, do you think that they do honor the spirituality aspect of it? Like the mental teachings of it?
Some. I do think so. Like, anyone who trains sort of under the Gracie tree, because that's just the way that it's been passed down.
Yeah. I have to apologize that you didn't find a question in this. As you can tell, I'm really rusty in this, and I haven't done anything communications related since I got my degree. So there you go. But
it was very nice.
Oh,
that's why I didn't say anything.
Oh, much appreciated, because I just hear rustling noises, and that's really going to translate well once I look into this later. Thanks, Andrew. But do you really think that guys like St. Pierre and Silva, and I mean going back even further, like Randy Couture, like, do you think that, you know, they look back and say, you know, this has just become another form of boxing? Or is it really, you know, delivering a message of any kind of enrichment of what they've learned in their martial arts? I can't find the right word. Like their martial arts training. Wow, that took a while.
Well, that's a very good question, and I'm not really sure, to be honest, but if I had to take a stab at it, I would lean more towards the first things that you said.
It's more of a physical, I'm in it for the, not so much the fame and fortune, but to make a living out of it.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, does that kind of upset you? Because you've been immersed in martial arts for more than half your life, and
just make me feel old.
Sorry about that. Well, you've got the body of an 80-year-old, allegedly. But just from knowing you and speaking to you and, going through daily life with you, you take a lot of your, values and such and your ethics through what you've learned in Taekwondo. So does it kind of upset you that, martial arts has taken this turn? I mean, like, you can practice it however which way you want, but when you see that, does it kind of, ring bells and such in your head, like, this isn't right?
Yes and no. Yes, from every point that you just mentioned. I mean, you've known me how long now?
Oh, geez, I don't even know anymore.
But in the American sense, I sort of consider myself to be like the anomaly. Because when I was younger, I would train 4 or 5 days a week.
Because you had the time for it.
Well, that too. But, I took it very seriously and almost next to any sort of religion anyone may believe, law.
Right.
And so that's sort of the yes side, because I myself took it very seriously when I was younger, and even today, even though I'm not so much involved, you can't see it by air quotes. But on the no side, I'm also, I understand it, because like we talked about earlier, I'm a big WWE fan. I'm a big fan of promotion and like football and like yada yada yada, the gladiators in the ring, yada yada. So I get that.
You got to make money. You got to sell tickets.
So from that perspective, I do understand it that way.
But do you think it's, well, getting into another question, do you think it's a negative influence on anybody that's looking to get into the sport, or anybody that wants to learn martial arts? Do you think that watching UFC